Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Questioning a better way, one gracefully disruptive conversation at a time.
Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila. I'm excited to be with you here today. We've got a magical conversation coming at you that I'm really excited to unpack. Before we do that, let's give some love to our very important sponsors, Lux Neuro, offering neurofeedback and counseling where your heart and mind align. For more information about what neurofeedback can do for you, listen to the neurofeedback stories of transformation in the middle of this podcast. Neurofeedback effectively treats everything from insomnia, anxiety, depression, trauma, ADHD, and much more. Optimize your brain today. Special shout out to Declan James Watches. They are local and veteran owned with 10% of all their proceeds going back to the Navy SEAL Foundation. So check them out, DeclanJamesWatches.com. And last but not least, our very own Colorado Clownfish Swim School, swim lessons and water safety training for all ages. We believe in life skills through sports. So come waterproof your family today, ColoradoClownfish.com. And let's rock and roll to this conversation. I want to welcome Misty Bell Stiers to Turmeric and Tequila. Welcome, Misty.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Yes, I'm super excited to have this conversation. I told you this before we started recording, but we've had a witch on before, actually a couple, I think. So I'm curious to unpack that, and I'm gonna let Misty tell her background as I do. But just a quick 411. I liked how you had this on your LinkedIn: friendly neighborhood hope dealer, author, speaker, magic maker. She's an artist, storyteller, and boss witch who spent her career focused on leveraging her passion for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and a little bit of magic to create systemic change at every level. So we've got a lot to talk about, from the business to the magic to the voice and the mission. Let's jump in. Before we get to all the business and the mission, let's talk about ourselves as a young person. I think things are in the stars very early. So tell us about Misty as a kiddo.
As a kiddo, I grew up in the middle of Kansas in a really small town, and I had really big dreams. And
Right.
I was convinced I was meant to be a Disney animator. I watched all the Disney movies back to back to back to back to back. And I think it was there. I'm an only child, which surprises no one who knows me at all. And I made some really wonderful friends that I actually am really close to this day. So I sort of brought her with me as I got older, which is such a gift, I think, to be able to surround yourself with people who've known all the versions of you. So I feel really lucky in that way. But yeah, she was, she loved where she was. She was very Catholic. She was not a witch.
Okay.
And she was very happily so. And I just wanted so much to see the world. It felt so vast. Yeah. And I've been lucky enough as an adult to get to start to do some of that. But she was, nothing fancy.
Yeah.
But happy.
I love that. Were you a creative kid? Like, were you out there in the mud or painting paintings? Like, what was the vibe?
I was such a creative kid. I wanted to be an artist so much. And I was always drawing. I used to make my teachers, like, I remember Sister Marie, when I was in 5th grade, I made her a little Care Bear, and I made like a little tummy for the Care Bear that could swap out for all the months of the year. I think in 6th grade, I was selling like little sketches of like Smurfs and things to my friends. I was always very like, that was just, to this day, it's my native language. Like the idea of drawing and painting and trying to like just see the world around me in a way that I think it forces me to stop and think about what's around me in a way that like, it's that space that I can get into that helps me. But yeah, I was a super creative kid. I went to high school. When you grow up someplace like Salina, Kansas, there's not a lot happening. So you have to fill your time. And I think that was a lot of it too. I was in theater. I was in the art class. I did all the things. And I think that in a lot of ways sort of shaped everything that I am now. Like I still fall back on art and going to museums and trying to create something worth keeping. I think it's where I found my magic as a kid. for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you're in New York right now, right?
Yeah, I
So dude,
am.
180. I'm here. So I'm similar to you. I was a Colorado kid and I grew up, it was Aurora at the time. Now it's Centennial, but I felt kind of isolated from the world, even though we were like 20 minutes from Denver. And I just couldn't wait to like grow up and do my own thing. And I absolutely love New York. I love East Coast energy. I played lacrosse and I played out East. All my friends are East Coast, like straight talkers. And it's the best, but it's definitely a 180 from like
Yeah.
Midwest to East Coast. How was that transition for you?
Um, it was, it wasn't so bad because it happened so late, honestly.
Okay.
Like, I went to college. I had this group of guy friends that wanted to go to Comic Con or some sort of comic book based thing in New York. And I convinced them to let me come with them. And we had a weekend where we drove from Florida to New York City. It was my first time of really being in the city. And I remember like walking into Times Square and being just astounded. And I couldn't believe, like, it just felt like this whole wonderful new planet.
Mhm.
And I think it was then that I was like, this is the place, like, this is the place, this is the place. And I just didn't know how to get here. Like, I wasn't sure how I could afford it. I wasn't sure how I could, like, just physically be here. And so when I graduated college, I went to Kansas City and I worked there for a few years, and I bought a house and I redid the house and I sold it and I used that money to come here. And I came here under the guise of getting my master's degree because I was like, oh, it's totally reasonable. I'll go for 2 years and then I'll go home. It'll be fine. I'm on year 22 now.
Okay. Let's go.
And I just could never quite leave. Like, I just fell in love with the like humanity of it, ironically. Like the idea that there's so many of us on like a 10-mile by 2-mile space on top of each other and creating and living and sharing all at the same time. My neighborhood feels like a really small town. Like the people, the bodegas and the restaurants all know my kids. They've seen my kids grow up. Like, even when they were tiny, I'd be like, if you ever get lost, you get in a cab, you tell them 48th and 9th, like someone will be there that will like take care of you. So it's been a really beautiful thing. But it was when I remember when I first moved here, I had my little tiny studio apartment in Kips Bay, and like it was terrifying to feel so alone in the middle of so many people. And I had always felt like I had this huge community, and I sort of like landed here and was like, well, I guess I gotta figure it out. And I think that's part of that figuring out is why I fell so in love with the city. Is like the city itself is a character in my life, and the streets that you walk and your favorite places that you go. And I used to go to the Met once a month, and I had $20. I would give myself $20 and I would go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art and I would buy a bowl of asparagus soup and a glass of white wine. And it was like the fanciest thing I had, and it was amazing. And so there's like that idea of, I don't know, just kind of like like waking up and exiting the door and like trying to find your place, and like where is that little spot where I can feel like this is mine. And I think the Met was that spot for me the first couple of years. Of like the rest of the city felt so foreign. It just felt so different than my own experience. And I would go into this building filled with all this art that I'd been studying, and it felt like home. And it kind of got me through until I could get my feet under me.
I love it. There's just something so cool, and it's not for everybody, but being in the center of it all, like it's all happening right there. And I mean, if diversity and inclusion is the thing, I mean, the culture, the food, the diversity in the humans, the points of view, I mean, it is awesome if that's your thing. I mean, there's just nowhere like it, and you'll get run the F over if you don't rock and roll. So I love that too, where it's like move it or lose it, sucker. Like that's also real.
Yeah, you learn real quick that you have to advocate for yourself, and no one's gonna give you space. Like you gotta take the space. And it's hilarious to me sometimes to look at my kids because they've grown up here. And like think about what I was like when I was their age, and like what are the things I was thinking about, and like how I walk through the world, and just being like, wow, like you are like an alien to me in the way that you see things, because they've been here. This is home. This is normal to them. And I think sometimes I forget that we're here. Like it feels so normal and so much like home that like I'm constantly like, I used to say when I was a creative director in my prior life, and I used to tell my designers all the time, don't forget to look up.
Yeah.
And I have to remind myself now too, sometimes, to just don't forget to look up and like
Yeah.
have that moment where you're like, wow, I'm here in this place. And, you know, that girl in Salina, Kansas, like this dream was too big to like try to put any reality to. And the fact that, you know, we've made a home here is bonkers.
That is cool. That to see your kiddos grow up and then know that I mean, like back in the day, I was riding like four-wheelers in the dirt. I had 3 younger brothers, so I got thrown into everything. And and I'm in Denver now, so it's not New York City, but it's city. So it's got to be wild to see the realities of like you were doing whatever you did in the dirt and like chasing squirrels or whatever Kansas kids do. And then New York, they're like calling an Uber and ordering a pizza on their way home from the Met. It's like what? What's happening right now?
Exactly. Like my daughter's commute to school is the crosstown bus. Like,
my God.
It's just, yeah, it's crazy and beautiful and wonderful.
Yeah.
And there is a part of me that wishes that I could have done both for them.
Yeah.
Like, I wish that there had been some sort of parallel universe where I could have raised them in the middle of, you know, a forest somewhere.
Yeah.
And then also raised them here. So we've done what we can. Like, we have a garden plot. It's like 6 by 2 feet in the community garden next to
That's a forest in New York City. Yeah.
Right? And you know, so we did what we could to like, you know, let them dig in the dirt and, you know, take them places and go hiking and things like that. But it really is, I don't know. I think that when we were like a few years into it and suddenly I realized like, oh, this is a choice. Like, this is a choice. Like, this is how they're growing up. And it's going to be so different than where I was. And it's almost like watching a like documentary about people I know really well.
Totally. Well, there's still time. They might move back to Kansas and bring New York City to the Midwest. So you never know what's on the horizon.
Possible.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know about that though. I don't know if I put my money on it, but love to see it. Well, I'm super curious because why don't we talk about the business first? Because it's really beautiful. I think that you're passionate about diversity and inclusion, and then you're passionate about food and fueling. I'm very much an advocate for the whole human approach. You got to balance, but it's not just the fitness and the fueling. It's the spirituality. It's a community. It's all these different things. And you kind of check all these boxes. So tell us about like your entrepreneurship journey first. And then I want to hear about how the food and Wiccan and all these things tie in.
Yeah. So I'm an artist and I was a designer, a digital designer, for years. And so I was in the agency world and I was, you know, designing websites. So, you know, bank websites, trading websites, clothing, like all the stuff that comes with that. And I think that I had a couple things happen in my life that sort of shifted my perspective. The main was 10 years ago, I had an accident that sort of took me out of my normal life for, 6 months or so. And I had to learn to walk again. I was away from my kids for the first time because I was in the hospital for so long. And when we were in Montana at the time, and I remember thinking, we just had to get back to the city. Like, I just wanted to get back to the city. And then I would be able to do all the things. Like, it would be more accessible to me. And I think that when I came back, I realized that the world just isn't built for everyone. And as someone who grew up as a like white, cisgendered, full of privileged person, like I was never forced to really think about that. And I got stuck in a grocery store once because I was in my wheelchair and I was excited because I wanted to like make dinner for the kids, and the space between the registers wasn't big enough for my wheelchair and they couldn't open the doors from that side. I had to wait for it was like a whole thing. And I remember just sitting there and crying because I was like, thought I was doing this great thing and I was feeling so independent. And then I ended up like at the mercy of this like door that wouldn't open the way it needed to open so I could get outside. And I remember when I started to get to where I could come back to work, I was like, we have to think about that. Like, we have to, like, we're designing things and not really investing in creating things everyone can participate in. Mm-hmm. And we're only doing the minimum, like when we're only doing what our client is asking us to do. And we could do more. And I think it sort of snowballed from there where, then I was like, oh, well, I started talking about it. We started, doing like little programs here and there. And I remember there was like a winter holiday and, I did a thing where, there's so many holidays between November and January, like, let's all talk about what we celebrate. And I had so many people from my team like email me and say, no one's ever asked me what I celebrate. And it's so cool to like, and it was literally just a poster where people were putting up post-its of like, this is what I celebrate. And I was like, it's so small. And I was getting these like emails from people where it meant so much. And I just sort of was like, I have to look at this career that I've had, and I have to be better. Like, I just have to be better. And so it sort of just started to open my eyes, because I realized it's like a lot of things, right? Where you start to like think about something from like one point of view, and then suddenly like the floodgates open and there's so much. And it kind of came at the same time, like me coming back to work and having all these thoughts. And then I had an interview with a friend. They do Mashup Americans, and she wanted to interview someone who was raised in one religion but was raising their kids in another. And I started thinking about like, wow, like we all have such unique experiences, and a lot of times we don't really talk about them. Like, we make a lot of assumptions about each other, and we don't really take the time to listen to each other's stories and really appreciate each other's experiences. And even more than that, we don't always give ourselves the credit for like the experiences we have and the decisions we've made and what we believe is true, and then what we can do to be our best selves. And it kind of like all like collided in the same place. And not long after that, I wrote my first book, and it was more, you know, it's about what it means to be a modern witch, and it talks a lot about Wicca and my journey and all of that. But I remember when I was writing it, I had sort of two goals. One, I didn't think that there was anyone who could really explain to my kids what I believed if I wasn't around. And I was like, if something were to happen to me and I couldn't recover like I recovered the first time, like, would they understand why I made the choices I made? And would they understand why I celebrate things and believe in the things that I do? And I really wanted them to be able to do that. And at the same time, I was also wanting to write something that talked about, like, how do you find yourself? Like, how do you, like, that it's okay to sort of look at what you've learned and what you've been taught and be like, I don't know if that gives me joy and peace. And if I explore it and I find that it does, then great. And if I explore it and I find maybe that it doesn't, it's okay to look for other things. And it's okay to question, and it's okay to share your story, and it's okay to ask other people for their stories. And so it kind of all grew from there. Like, it sort of all just collided and exploded all at the same time. And the further I walked into it and the further I leaned into it, the more myself I felt, and the more purpose I felt to like move forward. And I don't know, it's been really great ever since.
Yeah, that's amazing. There's a lot to unpack there, because I love a lot of things that you said. I think it's really important that it's not, I mean, necessary. I think it's mandatory that you question things and question a better way and see what works for you, because it's certainly not this standardization way of doing things anymore, where one thing fits all. And that's why we have the mental health challenges that we have. Like, you got to find what makes sense to you, however it's packaged. I say God, universe, Madonna. Maybe I'll add Wicca into this, but it's whatever you believe, because it doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't matter how you package it. It's just like what hits your heart and inspires you to move through the world a certain way. Do you feel like a lot of this clarity happened because of the accident and you were forced to pause and like be still, and like truth or questions came in?
I think when it came to like becoming Wiccan, like when I first like decided that I didn't want to stay where I had been raised religiously, that was that happened back when I was 18.
Oh, okay.
And what had happened then is I had lost a dear friend to suicide, and it really turned my world inside out, because you know, those things don't happen to me and the people I care about. And I tried very hard to find peace and resolution in my religion. I was very happy there. I found peace and joy there. And I sort of hit bottom and was like just crazy searching for answers. And I had an exchange where, you know, I spoke to the wrong person at the right time, and the door to that belief system just kind of shut. And I realized that, you know, I went somewhere for help, And, I knocked on the door and the person answered, and I said, like, this thing happened and I don't know what to do. And he looked at me and he said, well, you should pray for their soul.
Mm.
And I remember having that moment where that wasn't it was the answer I wanted. And
Yeah.
I don't know what I wanted or needed at that time, but it wasn't to feel like something had been wrong. And I sort of backed away after that and really started to examine, like, what do I believe? What do I need? And I knew that I was the kind of person that needed a spiritual home base. And I don't think that's true for everyone. But I knew it was true for me. And so I spent, 3 or 4 years, I was the annoying person at the party that would ask you what you believed and like
Okay.
talk to like everyone about it. I read all of the books, like I reread the Bible, I read the Quran, like I did all this research in Abrahamic religions and Asian beliefs and like Eastern world, like philosophies. And I was just trying, I think, relentlessly to find a place that felt like home. And while I was doing this, I was in art school, so it felt normal probably to everyone around me. And I had this friend who was like, I have this book, you should totally read it. It's about paganism. And I was like, come on now. Like, I don't know how to do black eyeliner, and I do not own a corset. I cannot be a witch. Like, just like
all the stereotypes.
Totally dismissed it. And then I eventually gave in and read this book, and lo and behold, I read the part about Wicca and it just felt right. And so I spent the next few years like really talking to a lot of people in the space and reading more and doing research and sort of kind of living with it in my heart to see if it felt right. And it did. And, I just felt like it was a place that I could go that gave me the answers I wanted when I needed them and let me live without answers, and gave me comfort and joy and purpose in a way that felt like I needed it. And I think that when I had my accident, it was so much later. It was 20 years later.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But what happened was, like, when everything sort of gets taken away from you, like, what's left? And I had to do some real soul searching of like, where will I draw the strength I need to keep going and to like face this sort of road ahead of me. And I realized that, like, without even having to like really struggle, like, that I had that inside, like, I really believed that was inside of me, and that I was connected to, the human experience of people who had been in the place that I was in, and that I had something divine inside of me I could pull on to like keep going. And I think it just, well, it wasn't the like causation of it. It was almost the solidification of like, okay, yeah, like I made this choice a long time ago, but it still holds true.
Yeah. And that's incredible. It's almost like you need one experience to lead to the other. And while you're searching, I almost think things still kind of find you, even though you're being really intentional. It's sometimes just time and reps. And when you're ready and the lights turn on, it's very interesting. Do you want to give us like a 10,000-foot view of like what Wicca is, or disrupt any stereotypes? Because I've interviewed someone prior and we talked about how, witches were often, labeled that way, but it was like modern day medicine women were medicine men. The patriarchy wanted to like put a cast on it, no pun intended, and do different things, but it's a lot of stuff we're more familiar with than we think. And I'm not the expert here, so anything you want to share or disrupt, we're here for that.
Yeah, I mean, I will fully say that I'm probably not an expert either, except for in my own experience, but it's really rooted in the idea that the divine doesn't live outside of us, that the power that spins the universe is within every living thing, and that we are not necessarily higher up on the list, right? That we are a part of an ecosystem that we are both responsible for and deeply indebted to. And the practice of it ranges quite a bit because there's not a lot of rules. In fact, when it became a real religion in America, a bunch of people who were Wiccan got together in like Minneapolis for like 3 days, wrote out what they needed to write, and then immediately were like, okay, nice to see you, and like left, because they didn't want there to be like a hierarchical power
Okay.
to the belief system. But it's based in this idea of like do no harm. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I like to tell people like a modern witch trusts her intuition, like knows her place in history, and honors what comes before. And you know, the idea that, you know, I don't have specific gods and goddesses that like every year I kind of choose like a god or goddess that I want to feel akin to, like that I feel is empowering, or like whose spirit can like imbue my year and what I'm trying to like grow, area I'm supposed to grow in. But there are people who have specific gods and goddesses that they'll set up shrines to, and you know, have rituals with and worship, but not everyone does. It's like it's a very sort of open belief system, just based on the idea that, you know, we're like an intricate part of like a really beautiful system
Mm-hmm.
that spins the world. And you know, I like to say that, you know, prayers and spells are very similar in the sense that like prayers go out to an outside source, and spells are acts of intention that are, you know, deeply within. But they're both acts of intention. They're both things that we want to have happen. They just go different places.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I think as I get older, and there's this idea of like the triple goddess, like the maiden, the mother, and the crone. You know, I'm like I'm like headed straight through the door of crone. Like, and I think as I age, I start to become like really innately aware of the fact that like so many people have come before me to like clear space for me to be able to be who I am and the way that I'm able to be who I am, and that I owe a certain responsibility to those who are behind me to make sure that I'm giving them that same opportunity, because we're all so tied together. I don't know if that really answered your question, but it's
Yeah.
where I sit with all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think just giving like your examples and how you identify with Wicca and being a Wiccan, am I saying that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, and I think because I mean, it's like explaining Christianity or anything else. Like I think it's different to each person and how you practice it and how you believe. I just know there's a lot of stereotypes around all religions
Oh yeah.
and understanding what it is. I was just watching a documentary because I'm more spiritual. I think I mean, energy to me is everything. Everything is energy. It comes, it goes. I mean, you are it, and I'm with you. It's kind of like it's all within. And I was watching, you know, a documentary on the Bible, and it's like Moses shows up in the Bible, in the Quran, and
Yeah.
what's the Jewish
The Torah.
Torah, yeah. So as you can see, this is not my field of expertise, but it's just so funny how so much overlaps, and then you have different humans interpreting their experience, so that then that travels down its own path. So to me, it's kind of like modern day telephone. I don't know that any God wants to hear that, but it's, you know, it's all kind of filtered through the experience of the human that was sharing
Sure.
that
Yeah.
experience. So I'm with you. I think it does go back to just what does it mean to you, and does it resonate? And then taking the time to ask the right questions to know where you're headed. I do think it's an important center point, grounding point for us all.
Yeah.
Again, however you label it.
Yeah, and I think, you know, like everything in the world, we evolve as people.
Mm-hmm.
And just because something may have worked for you 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 5 years ago or 3 months ago, it might not work for you now. And
Yeah.
you know, our worlds change, and the people around us change, and our circumstances change, and what we need changes. And I think it's good to like take a moment every once in a while and be like, am I living a life that gives me opportunities for peace and joy?
Yeah.
And if I'm not, what do I need to look at? And to just acknowledge that it's okay to let go of some of the stuff that maybe feels foundational.
Yeah.
Because you can rebuild in a way that can really like fill your soul, in a way that maybe previously wasn't. And we should all do that. We should all have that opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you got to clear space if you want new to come in, like literally, metaphorically, all of it. Like you have to
Yeah.
hold that space. And I really like that you said acknowledging those that became before us. I mean, as a female athlete, and just the past couple of years of seeing how women's basketball has popped off, and we've got a women-owned, exclusive women watching sports bar out here. So to see that change from when I came out of high school and then in college, 25 plus years ago, it's wild. And then immediate family, strong grandmother, mother, like so. I think
Mhm.
it's really important, like you said, to acknowledge, and then beyond that, the humans before us, because there's so much that has happened. Even if you're adopted and you don't know your roots, or you're not as familiar
Right.
as some people, there's still a process to all of this.
Yeah. I remember when I was having my kids, like I remember there was this moment when I was giving birth to my daughter where I had this like feeling of like so like it's so hard and scary, but I'm one of like millions
Mhm.
over time that have had this moment, like that have had this moment like right now. And it's such a comfort for me to like know that, while my experience is unique and, defined by a lot of the choices I make, that we're all a lot more similar than we are different. And like being able to pull on that and say like, yeah, I'm in this place where like now I'm like getting ready to send my daughter to college next, like year
Oh,
after
wow.
next.
Okay.
And yeah, we won't talk about that. That's a whole
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
And but like there's like a sense of comfort to me that there are women in that same place who are looking at their daughters and being like, you're so amazing, and I don't want to send you out into this world, but I'm going to.
Hmm.
And dealing with the heartbreak and the joy and the celebration and all of that together, like knowing that like that's a shared experience, and that there were women before me that were doing it, and there are women ahead of me that will do it. And the idea that like we all have that to like really hang on to and gain strength from, I
Hmm.
think is, I don't know, and it's even like little stuff. It doesn't have to be like big giant moments. It's just little tiny stuff where, the idea that you're not alone in your experience is so powerful and so
Yeah.
cool. Like,
Yeah. Well, like you said, the divine's within, but on the flip side, it's like we're all part of this human experience. Like you're not special. Like we're all super special and then not. It's like right in between. Like it's both things. Like the juxtaposition is real, because it is like the more you can see, like, oh, we're all kind of dealing with the hard stuff, and then the good stuff is the good stuff, and then the in between, wanting to be seen and be heard and all that. Like it's all so similar, and we are so divinely unique and have these really cool gifts that we can show up and like serve purpose and help one another, etc. It's interesting. It's kind of a perfect segue. I want you to talk about your cookbook, because you have recipes from your family that it sounds like it was passed down and everything. So tell us about that.
yeah. So, when I wrote my first book, there were recipes in it for like each of the pagan holidays.
Oh,
And
okay. Okay.
And so people really responded to that. Like they really liked it. And they weren't really like, I won't say that they were written like a recipe. There was like a big giant, I was like a blog, the worst blog post ever, right? Like it was like the big giant story. And then at the end, there was like a little recipe. Um,
Acceptable.
and, and one of the practices in Wicca is that you keep, a lot of people keep a grimoire, which is like a book of spells. And it's, pretty varied across like people's experiences. But mine has always been this like recipe book that my husband gave me for one of our anniversaries, and it has like all the recipes in it from like the first meal he and I ever made together, and the first meal my
Aw.
son had when he could like have real food, and the first recipe my daughter made by herself. It's like just chock full of like, I don't have like a scrapbook and my kids have like empty baby books, but I have this recipe book. and
There you
um
go.
and I remember my publisher being like, I think people might be interested in this. And one of the things that sort of weaves through all of that is that they weren't just like recipes for food. A lot of it was, what do I want to like intentionally, what do I want to bring to this? Like what ingredients can I put in this that will give more than just nutrients? And I always feel like one of the things that drives me crazy is this whole like lean in culture and self-care thing where like if one more person tells me to meditate, like I'll lose my mind. I can't. Like I'll sit down with the best of intentions and I'll get like 20 seconds in and I know
Yeah.
that this means I'm not doing it right. So don't for those of you who are good at it, like forgive me. But like I'll like, immediately smell something and not
Yeah.
be able to identify the smell, or like I'll start doing the grocery list. Like it's just not something that I have found I find peace in cooking.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
and so I was like, you know what? If I have to make a meal anyway, because the law says I have to feed my children, then I might as well use that as a moment of intention. And so I kind of went into it like filling this book with sort of our family stories and, our milestones, but it's also what I hope is that it's like a jumping off point, like it's an instigator for people to be like, it's okay if you don't have time for yoga today. It's okay if you didn't journal all the things you're grateful for today. It's okay that you're not doing all these things that we're all being told, especially as women, that we need to do to like take care of ourselves. Like, it's okay if you just make a box of mac and cheese and stir it clockwise and think about what you want to have it imbued with so that the people who eat it can feel your love. And to like take that 10 seconds and like just take a deep breath and stir it and be conscious of the act of, I'm making this food because I want to nourish myself. I'm making this food because I want my children to feel loved, and this is how I can show them. And so it's just a combination of recipes that have specific ingredients. So, there's like 3 different enchiladas, and like one of them is like poblano peppers for passion. And, there's another that's like cheesy for, like for fertility. Like it's sort of like you can kind of flip through and have fun and be like, oh, carrots for creativity. Or it can be like, oh, I'd really like a lasagna. Like you can choose. But then in the instructions, I've tried to like weave in those moments of, like when you make the spaghetti sauce, I think one of the like step 6 is like, okay, now just walk away. Like you did everything you were supposed to. And I know it's really hard to like trust that you did everything you were supposed to. So we're going to practice now, and we're just going to walk away from this and let it do what it needs to do. And when we come back, it's going to be amazing. And, we're going to practice that now. So let's just go. It's fine. And, trying to kind of like find those moments in the making of that sort of give us permission to celebrate and revel in the moment we're in, rather than worrying about like what happened 2 hours ago or what might happen tomorrow. And so that's what I hope that it brings people. And it's what a lot of those recipes, they're my fallback. Like we're not feeling, like someone's, my daughter is sad about something, so I want to make her, and like one of the recipes in there is fairy berries, and I used to make them for her when she's little. The recipe is literally strawberries and sugar, so you don't have to buy the book, just strawberries and sugar. But like strawberries are what fairies ate, and they're magical. And it's this whole like thing I would do with her where if she was a little sad, I would make her fairy berries, and we'd have a moment where we'd make them together and we could sit down and eat them. And I used to make monkey milk for my son, which is cinnamon and bananas and milk. So some of the recipes are really, really simple, but they're just from a place of, here's a moment that you can create, because our meals end up being so much more than food. Like we all have that like smell where you're like, oh, my mom used to make something that smelled like that. Or like, the memories around a table where it's so based in like the food that we shared. And I think we forget about that in the rush of our days, and being able to kind of hopefully make those meals into moments when we can, even if that moment is just a moment to take a deep breath.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm with you. And if you see across, again, culture is kind of like religion. Food is always a communal, bringing together moment. In America, we have lost that because we're too busy, we're too tired, we're too something. And that pause of an awareness of, let's have this moment, let's connect. It doesn't have to be this grandiose gesture. It can just be something with intention. So I think that's great that you put that down. But also, I mean, the book's great for millions, but the fact that you have your young humans at home, I always say parents are their kids' first influencer. I mean, you're modeling it. So those little traditions carry through, from generation to generation.
I hope so. I really hope so.
I mean, there might be a point of rebelling, because there's always that too.
yeah. I remember when I first said I was doing it and I started to do it, my daughter was like, well, thank God, because I can't read your handwriting.
She can listen to all the podcasts. She's good. It's a whole different experience.
And I was like, that's fair. So now you have it all typed out. So like we don't have to worry about it. But yeah, I mean, I do. I think that I live in like 700 square feet, and we do not have a dining table. We have a camping table that we get out from time to time, but it's not a regular occurrence. And I think that it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be complicated, but it's something that we do all the time anyway. So it's nice to like use it as an excuse to like just take a deep breath and enjoy like where we are right now.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about She Changed the World. You were a contributor, and this sounds like it's the most recent book.
Yeah. So I wrote 2 essays in it. My friend Karen from college is an illustrator. And so she has this series of illustrations that are portraits of women from all walks of life. And then they all have like a verb next to them. And she had this idea of wanting, she had done like series after series. So she has like fictional characters and real life women, and it was all this stuff. And she had actually collected this really beautiful diaspora of women who have done great things. And it's everything from like a community-based influence to like Kamala Harris. Like it's all over the place. And I loved it for that. And she was like, I have this idea where I want to get people to write essays about these women based on this verb. And I want the women who write these essays to be as diverse as all of the illustrations. And so I was lucky enough that she asked me to take part, and I got to write an essay about Georgia O'Keeffe, and I got to write an essay about Hedy Lamarr. And it's really great. I mean, like my daughter in her room has a bookshelf that's just these books, like, you know, like every book possible, like The Women Who Built New York, and like every, like, you know, different profiles of all of the powerful women in the world. And it was really fun to be able to like participate in one of those kinds of books and to get to sort of come at it from a really personal point of view. And, you know, Hedy Lamarr, I've been in digital design for almost 30 years. And so Hedy Lamarr was this amazing actress, but she was also like the contributor to like a lot of our modern technology now. Yeah. And so it was fun to get to tell that story. And then as an artist, like Georgia O'Keeffe, and the way that she approached expressing how she saw the world and not being afraid to do that was fun as well. So it was really great. And then, you know, a lot of my friends got to write essays in there too. So it's just a book full of these really powerful, wonderful women that a lot of them we don't, you know, I had 2 people who are really well known, but not all of them are. So it's kind of fun to take the deep dive and to see how all of these different authors, you know, found these stories about these women and what they meant to them. And a lot of us had really personal connections. Like Karen, like wrote us all. We're like, who would you like to, I don't know how she like managed it all, but you know, who do you want to write about? And so we all wrote about people who, you know, were important to us and influenced us in some way.
Very cool. No, that's incredible. And what a great, I mean, you are like the tribe you keep. So the company you keep is you. So if you're extending your energy to, you know, these like-minded humans, you know, they're passionate about somewhat different things. That's got to be soul fuel for you on a lot of levels.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I think that there's something really powerful about having that community around you and the people around you. And I'm a solitary practitioner when it comes to like being a witch. But I'm very much, I for sure have a coven. Like, and I, you know, it's as diverse as it is, that it like makes me really happy that it's as diverse as it is. But I think there's really nothing more wonderful than like being able to like text into that like group of women on certain days. And I think sometimes we don't always give that the credit that it deserves. But like when I look at my daily, like I'm so much able to be the person I want to be because I have this community of people around me who lend strength and cheer, you know, and cheerlead. And, you know, we all take turns where there are days when you just, it's hard to be your own advocate. And when you have that tiny screen with just words on it, but like you reach out and you say, this is happening today, or you would not believe what just happened. And then you have immediate, like people, like these women in your life come in and say, wait a second, like you are loved and you are cared for and you are seen and you are heard. It's powerful. It's so powerful. And I have a lot of anxiety and depression and PTSD issues, and, you know, God bless my therapist and my doctor for keeping me here. But like, you know, it's also like that safe space to be all of those things as well. And I think it's so important to carve that space out for yourself of like having those people where you don't have to worry about how you're feeling that day or who you are that day, that you just have a community of people who are welcoming you in no matter what.
Yeah, 100%. And that comes again, that goes back to very olden days of having, saunas, depending on what part of the world they're coming from,
Right.
or fire meetings, or, you're having tea or whatever. But I always say girls need their girlfriends and guys need their guy friends, and non-binary, all included, like however you identify, I'm here for it. The point is just any of your like-minded outside of the family, someone that's not in your immediate pack. I mean, I have a very tight family, but having your crew, and thank God sports for me was everything because I had my literal team of humans. And then when I traveled away and didn't have any friends, when I went to college out east, I immediately had that common denominator. So I'm such an advocate for keeping your girls close, your guys close, but your immediate friends close, because they often do. They see all the things you don't see, and they can keep you tied to the ground when you're flying high or you need an assistance or something, help you up. It's really, really critical.
It's also like such a beautiful thing to get to watch someone come into their own. Like, like I have a friend who I've known since high school who lives here in New York as well. And I've watched him like work towards his dream, like just relentlessly for, 20 years.
Yeah.
And to get to like celebrate all of those in between places. And like now he's a lyricist on Broadway, and to get to like be there and be like, I remember.
Yep.
And and to be there to be like, this is not luck, like you're, because like I'm so lucky I got to do this. Well, yeah, but also
20 years of work.
Remind you that like you did all this stuff, like you worked really hard. And I think that having those kinds of witnesses to your life is so important, and being able to witness someone for so long is such a gift. It's such a gift.
Miracles are happening all around us. You got to just take that pause. And obviously, I mean, it sounds like you must have been a key piece. Oh, we cut out. You must have been a key piece of his journey. And I'm sure if he was on the mic, he would say how appreciative it was. 20 years. I'm a creative and a dreamer, and like we chase these big things. So it never happens overnight. So to have those people, those cheerleaders, I'm sure he would say wonderful things about having you in his orbit.
Yeah, if we catch him on the right day.
Well, family and close friends also keep it real, so you got to appreciate that too.
Exactly.
I love it. Well, Missy, I can ask you 100 more questions, but I do want to wrap on my most favorite question. I'm very curious to hear what you have to say. But what is success to you?
I think success is, it's harder than I want it to be, this question, but it's such when I am no longer here, if the memory of me can bring a feeling of love, then I've done something right. If that's all that's left of me is some shadow of that, then I think that I've done what I wanted to do.
Hey, that's beautiful. Well, I mean, as you're saying, as you champion your friends and your family, I'm confident that they would say something to that effect, but I haven't heard that. And we've done a lot of podcasts, so that's very well said. I definitely feel that.
Thanks. And thank you so much for having me.
Yes, such a pleasure. Do you want to tell us where we can get books or downloads, social media handles? Where can we find you?
You can find me at Misty Belle Stiers, pretty much everywhere. It's the same. And you can buy my books in Barnes & Noble, Target, Amazon. My first book is Witch Please, How to Find Magic in Modern Times. And my second book is Light, Fire, and Abundance. That's the cookbook. And, I have some articles and things out in the world that I would love to share. I think one of my favorites is on the Muse, and it's called How to Be a Better Boss, Act Like a Witch.
Hey.
But it's all your normal book selling places. Please support your independent bookstores if you can. Yes. And it's at Misty Belle Stiers. It's the easiest way to find me. And I'm hoping that this last book, the cookbook, has the most of me in it. I illustrated it, and all the photos are styled by me, and the recipes are our family recipes. And I hope that I don't know, I hope it finds people at the right time and brings them some joy and some fun, and encourages them to maybe write all over it and change the recipes and make it their own.
I love that. Yes. The intentionality. That's what we need 2025 and beyond.
Yeah.
Figure out what you love and believe in, and go light up the world. And so I appreciate the energy. I appreciate the light. And just like I said, the intentionality in the journey, I think, is the big takeaway. So please go check out Misty and all the glory that she has going on. I do want to give a special thank you to our sponsors. Thank you, Lux Neuro, Neurofeedback and Counseling. Lux Neuro wants to meet you if you are ready to transform your life. Visit them at luxneuro.com and schedule a consultation today. Colorado Clownfish Swim School, swim lessons and water safety for all ages. They believe in life skills through sports. So go waterproof your family today. ColoradoClownfish.com. Misty, you're awesome. I wish you all of the success and good things to come. I hope our paths cross. I think the energy and the graceful disruption, I feel like we'll cross paths down the road for sure.
I certainly hope so. Thank you so much. It's been amazing to have a conversation with you today.
Yes. Thank you so much. Be sure to check us out wherever you get your podcasts, and this video will be on YouTube. So like and subscribe accordingly. Again, thank you, Misty. We will see you soon. Cheers.
All right. Bye.
Thank you for joining Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Tune in next time, and don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.